Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, just a quick little preview for an upcoming fight. Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Erickson Lubin goes down this weekend, takes place in Texas, and the WBC interim super welterweight title is going to be on the line. Vergil Ortiz, a fighter who I've rated for a long time, a fighter in which I enjoy watching. 9 times out of 10 his fights are very exciting, a lot of knockouts, a lot of aggression, just really what you want from a fighter in many ways. Having said that, I have become a little frustrated with Vergil Ortiz's, I would say, stop-start career. A lot of it hasn't been down to his own fault, illness, long periods out the ring because of that. A few political issues here and there as well. But, 27 years old now, Vergil Ortiz, amassed a record of 23-0. Some good names like Israel Madrimov, Sergey Boachuk, Aegis Kavalauskas, Maurice Hooker on the resume. But still yet to fight for a full world title. And this is yet another fight that doesn't change. His opponent, Erickson Lubin, another fighter in which I actually have a fair bit of respect for, to tell you the truth. Not had an easy career. Seems to be somebody who will take the hard fights. You look at his ledger in his career so far. He's fought Sebastian Fundora in a fight in which was brutal. He actually dropped Fundora in that fight, had his moments as well. Really, really brutal fight. Fought guys like Jamel Charlo way back in the day, Ishe Smith, Nathaniel Gallimore, Jason Rosario, Terrell Gausha, Jesus Alejandro Ramos Jr. He's always been there or thereabouts, Erickson Lubin, and I've always seen him as somebody who is like a talented fighter, technically talented, he's athletically gifted, he's fast, respectable power, decent combinations. One of those fighters that can do a fair bit in the ring, but with Erickson Lubin, I've always kind of felt that he may be a little bit fragile in terms of taking punches. He's there to be hit, he's there to be hurt. He's been dropped a few times in his career, been stopped a couple of times. I also think he's somebody who is easy to fluster. When I say fluster, I don't mean in the sense of you hit him a couple of times and he goes into a shell. What I mean by fluster is you have a bit of success against him and you can drag him into a bit of a fight. He'll fight you off, he'll try and go toe to toe. And I don't really think that suits his skills. And, that would be my worry for him, I guess, going into a Vergil Ortiz fight. Because as we know, Vergil Ortiz is very aggressive, likes to walk you down behind the high guard. But primarily that jab, likes to work the body. He'll try and pick his spots. He'll try and be methodical. And then he'll slowly start to up the pace, up the pressure, up the output. And, he's one of those fighters in which he's got a style that I think Erickson Lubin might try and match, and I think that might be bad for him, personally. I think in this bout, I think it's a hard fight for him to win in general, quite frankly. I just think Vergil Ortiz overall is on another level. I think what he does will offset what Erickson Lubin does, but I think for Lubin, his best bet in this bout might be to box, might be to box and move behind that southpaw stance, try and pick shots, try and time Vergil Ortiz coming in, particularly with the lead uppercut. I think that shot could be there against Vergil. Vergil Ortiz has kind of fights in a little bit of a crouch behind the guard. He is nice and compact, but he does lean over his front foot a little bit. And the quick uppercut could be there for Erickson Lubin. But I think he needs to be more of the matador in this fight. I don't think he can meet the bull head on and try and fight like a bull himself, because I think he'll get splattered, quite frankly. Having said that, though, even if Erickson Lubin does try to box and move, we saw Israel Madrimov try and do the same thing. Madrimov was relatively passive in that fight. He was trying to keep the space against Vergil, use his jab and fire punches from the outside. But Vergil Ortiz successfully took that jab away from Israel Madrimov and slowly but methodically outboxed him on the front foot. You know, Vergil Ortiz does have more. He's not just a Bobby Basic pressure fighter. He does have a lot of skill. His defense for a come forward guy is pretty tight when he wants it to be. He does get overzealous at times, don't get me wrong, as we saw in the Boachuk fight, as we saw in the Maurice Hooker fight, and even the Kavalauskas fight as well. But when he's really switched on, he's quite a compact fighter that doesn't give too much away, economical with his work, picks the shots at the right time, maintains pretty good balance throughout a fight. So if Ortiz is switched on like he was against Madrimov, I don't think the boxing of Erickson Lubin's going to work. Maybe honestly the best bet for Lubin would be to try and adopt like a boxer-puncher type of style. And again, try to outbox Ortiz if and when you can, but always trying to... He always needs to try and look to walk Ortiz into big single punches. But I just see it as a fight in which Lubin likely is going to get overwhelmed. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Lubin has some success here because, like I said, I've always seen Lubin as a pretty skilled fighter. I think it's just physically he can't always hold it together, and maybe even mentally, you know, can't keep the composure like he should maybe at elite level. But I do think he's a relatively skilled fighter, and skilled enough to give Ortiz some trouble here and there, to give Ortiz some moments here and there. I see Erickson Lubin as like a perennial sort of top 10 contender at super welterweight. And super welterweight isn't exactly a weak division, so that's not a slight or a bad thing as such. But overall, I see Ortiz as a higher level fighter, a fighter in which has a higher ceiling, a fighter in which is younger and fresher, and ultimately is coming off a good performance over Madrimov. I think overall the pressure of Ortiz might be a bit too much. I think the bodywork of Ortiz could be very pivotal in this fight. We saw the bodywork of Sebastian Fundora really give Lubin a lot of trouble, and even to a lesser degree the bodywork from Jesus Ramos. I actually felt Jesus Ramos beat Erickson Lubin. I felt Lubin was a little fortunate to get that decision. Ortiz brings much more effective pressure than a guy like Ramos does, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, it's one of them fights really. It's an alright fight. It's not like a terrible opponent for Vergil Ortiz, but at the same time, at this stage of his career, I really want to see him in there with a champion. Like an official full champion. Like a guy like Fundora or Xander Zayas, for example, Bakram Murtazaliev, these sort of guys. I want to see him fight for a full world title. But, he's fighting for the interim again. He's defending his interim. So we'll see what happens from here. He should win this fight. I think he should win relatively comfortably. Again, I think Lubin's going to have a few moments here and there. But ultimately, it's a fight that Ortiz should be making a statement in. And also there's the fight with Jaron Ennis as well, potentially around the corner. Despite no title, that's a fight I'd really love to see next. So there's that fight as well. The undercard, I'll be honest, there's nothing really to report here. A couple of prospects fighting on the undercard. Nothing really interesting though, from what I can see. But the main event is decent enough. It's alright. It's passable for Vergil Ortiz, I guess. It's passable, but yeah, I think after this one, we really need to see Vergil in there with a champion or a guy like Ennis, That's how I see it anyway. But share your thoughts below. What do you make of this fight? Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.